The snow came earlier than expected. It swirled angrily outside the cabin, a stark contrast to the warmth inside. 4 friends huddled around the crackling fireplace. They were supposed to be celebrating their annual winter getaway. Now, fear was starting to creep in. They were trapped.
It's beautiful, but a bit scary too.
John, the practical one, tried to lighten the mood.
Just a bit of snow. We've got enough supplies for a week.
But his words rang hollow. The storm was intensifying by the minute. The wind howled like a banshee, rattling the windows. The once comforting cabin was quickly becoming a prison. Sarah, usually the optimistic one, shivered. They all knew she was right. The beauty of the snowstorm was eclipsed by the threat it posed. The isolation was palpable. As night fell, an eerie silence descended. The storm raged on, but the wind seemed to hold its breath. This silence was more unnerving than the howling wind. It was a pregnant pause, filled with unseen menace. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. No one dared to speak. The fire crackled, a log shifted, sending sparks into the darkness. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on sinister shapes. The warmth of the fire couldn't penetrate the growing chill in the air. It felt like something was watching them, waiting.
Maybe we should try the radio again.
They had tried earlier, but the storm interfered, the airwaves filled with static. The outside world seemed very far away. A sharp rap on the door shattered the silence. It echoed through the cabin, a startling intrusion in the stillness. The friends froze, their hearts pounding in unison. They stared at the door, as if expecting it to swing open and reveal their worst fears.
What was that?
No one answered. They were all too stunned to speak. The knock, so unexpected, so unnatural in its timing, had shaken them to their core. It was a violation of their sanctuary.
Maybe it's just a branch.
John said, his voice lacking conviction. He didn't believe it himself. The sound had been too deliberate, too insistent. It was a sound that demanded their attention, and it was about to get worse. Another knock, louder this time, sent shivers down their spines. The friends huddled closer, fear a tangible presence in the room. Emma, known for her level-headedness, surprised them all.
I'm going to see who it is.
No, Emma, don't. It's too dangerous. It could be...
She trailed off, unable to voice her fear, but they all knew what she meant. It was something they couldn't explain, something sinister. Emma gently pried Sarah's hand away.
We can't just ignore it,
she said, her voice firm despite her fear. She picked up the poker from beside the fireplace, her makeshift weapon. With a deep breath, she walked towards the door, each step heavy with dread. As Emma reached for the doorknob, a blood-curdling sound stopped her dead in her tracks. It was a deafening slam against the door, as if something heavy had been thrown against it with immense force. The cabin shook, and a cold gust of wind extinguished the fire, plunging them into darkness. Panic seized the group.
Screaming, "Ah!"
Sarah screamed, clinging to David. John stumbled back, knocking over the table. The sound of shattering glass added to the chaos. In the darkness, their fear was amplified, their senses heightened. They were no longer alone in the cabin. A bone-chilling cold swept through the room, far colder than the snowstorm outside could explain. It was an unnatural cold, a cold that seemed to seep into their bones and freeze their hearts from within. The air grew thick with dread and the smell of damp earth. A faint blue glow emanated from outside the window. As their eyes adjusted to the darkness, the friends gasped in horror. Pressed against the window, staring at them with malevolent intensity, were grotesque humanoid figures. Their skin was an unnatural shade of blue, almost translucent. Their eyes glowed with the same eerie light as the snow outside. They were tall and gaunt, with long, sharp claws that scraped against the glass like knives. But it was their faces that instilled true terror. Their features were twisted into grotesque parodies of human expressions, frozen masks of hatred and hunger. These were the cold ones.
Dropping the poker. What are those things?
She whispered, her voice choked with terror. No one answered. They had never seen anything like it, anything so utterly chilling and inhuman. They were trapped with creatures out of a nightmare. The knocking resumed, now coming from all sides of the cabin. It was relentless, a cacophony of slams and scratches that seemed to shake the very foundation of their refuge. The cold ones were all around them, their glowing eyes peering through the windows, their icy breath fogging the glass. The friends huddled together in the center of the room, their backs to each other, their eyes darting around in terror. They were surrounded. There was no escape. The knocking grew louder, more insistent, a terrifying symphony of their impending doom.
We have to fight back.
John grabbed a shard of broken glass from the floor, his knuckles white. But even as he spoke, he knew it was futile. What could they possibly do against such creatures? These were not beings of this world. The cabin groaned under the relentless assault. The windows rattled, threatening to shatter under the onslaught. The flimsy door wouldn't hold for long. The cold ones were growing impatient. They could smell their fear, taste their terror. Sarah began to cry softly, her shoulders shaking with sobs. David held her tightly, whispering words of comfort he didn't believe himself.
It's going to be okay, Sarah. I promise.
Emma stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the door, bracing herself for the inevitable. They were trapped, with nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
I won't let them take us without a fight. I'll protect you, all of you, even if it means...
He wouldn't let them take him without a fight. He would protect his friends, even if it meant his own demise. He would face the unknown with courage, even in the face of unimaginable terror. The temperature plummeted, dropping to an unbearable level. The air grew thick and heavy, making it difficult to breathe. Frost began to form on the walls, spreading like a virus across every surface. The cabin was becoming an icebox, a tomb of frozen fear.
It's so cold, I can barely feel my fingers.
John's breath formed icy clouds in the air. His fingers, clutching the glass shard, were numb with cold. He could see his own breath, a ghostly reminder of his dwindling warmth.
I can't take this cold anymore.
The cold was more than just physical. It was a chilling presence that seeped into their souls, extinguishing their hope. Sarah's sobs turned into quiet whimpers, her body trembling uncontrollably. David rubbed her back, trying to warm her with his own body heat. But even he was starting to feel the effects of the unnatural cold. It was a cold that gnawed at their life force, draining them of their will to resist. The knocking stopped. An eerie silence descended once more upon the cabin, but instead of bringing relief, the silence only heightened their fear. It was the silence of anticipation, the silence before the storm. The friends held their breath, listening for any sound, any indication of what awaited them. Suddenly, the flimsy door burst open with a deafening crack. A gust of icy wind swept into the cabin, sending a shower of frost and splinters across the room. The friends huddled together, their eyes wide with terror, bracing themselves for the final assault. There was no escape. The blue glow intensified, bathing the room in an unnatural light. The air crackled with energy, and the smell of damp earth grew overpowering. The cold ones were here. Their forms, shrouded in swirling snow and shadows, began to materialize from the swirling vortex outside the door. The last thing John saw before the shadows engulfed him was the chilling, inhuman grin spreading across the face of the nearest cold one. It was a grin that spoke of ancient hunger, of a thirst for something more than just their flesh. It wanted their fear, their despair, their very essence. John closed his eyes, accepting his fate. He had faced his fear, fought for his friends, but some battles were unwinnable. The cold seeped deeper into his bones, replacing fear with a strange numbness. He welcomed the oblivion it offered. The last vestiges of his consciousness whispered a chilling realization. They weren't just going to die. They were going to become one with the cold ones, their souls trapped in an eternity of icy torment. Their laughter, filled with icy malice, echoed in his ears as the darkness consumed him completely.